So International Relations Minister Dr. Naledi Pandor says the humanitarian aid provided to KwaZulu-Natal flood victims by Qatar is a sign of true international friendship. The support will go towards rebuilding the province, which was hit by floods, first in April and then again earlier this month. The disasters have claimed more than 400 lives, with thousands more people displaced. Minister Pandor says the help from Qatar should be welcomed. She joins us now via our video link for more on this development. Minister, it's great to see you. Thanks for making time to speak to us. You know, that saying, there ain't such a thing as a free lunch. I can imagine some of the cynics among us asking the question, what's in it for Qatar?
Well, I believe that perhaps our country isn't sufficiently aware of the degree to which we do have collaboration with various countries as joint programs supported by them and so on. And there are no, there's no blackmail behind it. It is all toward international solidarity. Remember that international relations take place on a range of factors, including humanitarian aid and support, which is part of international humanitarian law. So countries that are friends, when times are tough, they assist each other. You would know that, for example, our HIV and AIDS program, especially the provision of antiretrovirals, is supported hugely with over billions of funding from the United States of America. Our vocational education development, with loads of grants from Germany, postgraduate study, the Netherlands, so I could go on and on. Giving to others is not an unusual phenomena. It is part of the framework of diplomatic relations worldwide.
Yeah. In the briefing that was held yesterday, you took a time to speak about what you described as a debate around some of the aid that South Africa has provided to other countries. And I presume here that you were alluding to the discussions around South Africa's humanitarian gift, if you like, to Cuba. Some of the critics, insofar as that is concerned, pointed out that South Africa is simply not in a position to be donating to other countries, given the scale of the problems we have here at home. What's your response in clarifying that issue?
Well, as I've said, in diplomatic relations, you make provision for a whole range of activities. South Africa has funding that is set aside for the very matters that have been referred to in court and that have been disputed by AfriForum. We have funding that is dedicated toward social development support. So I cannot go to social development and use their funding for what is called essentially soft diplomacy, which is diplomacy related to support in terms of humanitarian aid or other forms of support. Some countries give you 300 scholarships for young people to study engineering, and those students are fully funded. This is all part of the international relations practice worldwide. It might be that we're not familiar with it as South Africans, but you always provide assistance. And I think given our own culture and philosophy of Ubuntu, when our friends are in need, as South Africans and African people, we tend to hold out a hand if we can.
Is there something to be said about whether or not these budget allocations could be better prioritized, given what, again, critics have pointed out, about whether or not, redirecting what has been previously budgeted as soft diplomacy, as you put it, could take place?
Well, it depends how you would want South Africa to be looked at. And I think then you would argue that we should put aside all scholarships that we receive, because we're saying to the world, we will never lend a hand, so do not support our HIV/AIDS programs, don't provide funding to some of our NGOs, do not support us in expanding the production of artisans, don't join us as partners in the building of the Square Kilometre Array, which is an international scientific project. So, I think we need to have certainly your guidance. It would appear that the media is totally against this form of international relations, and it is, for me, quite odd because it's part of international practice. This is why, as South Africans, we engaged with the world when we were fighting apartheid to say support us in this process. And you would know that it was one of the biggest efforts of international solidarity in any struggle for freedom. So solidarity is a phenomenon in international relations. And I think really I've been rather taken aback at this notion that where there is need, South Africans must not be involved at all because we must only look to ourselves. This is not how the world operates.
Right.
And this is why we get so much support from other countries in the world.
Well, to be fair, Minister, I wouldn't go as far as to say there's some kind of media agenda. These are sentiments and questions that ordinary South Africans have, and that's why we have you on the program to provide this clarity. What we've also learned...
that they are raised by others, but I believe the subject has been really made a subject of controversy without explanation of these other elements that I'm speaking to, that we don't act alone, nor do we stand alone.
All right. The Qatari team is also going to have some kind of presence, I understand, in KwaZulu-Natal for about 2 weeks or so. Yeah. What exactly will be the nature of their business during that time?
Well, the Emir of Qatar, who is the leader of the Qatari nation, had spoken to our president to say that they will make initial emergency support available to KwaZulu-Natal to help with the immediate needs, but they also would like to carry out an assessment of the actual disaster and identify what further needs there are so that they may provide additional support.
Right. The humanitarian collaboration, I imagine, can also take place on the African continent. I understand the AU's Extraordinary Humanitarian Summit set to discuss an AU humanitarian agency too. It is those kind of bodies, I imagine, that would also be involved in trying to provide some kind of assistance to those flood victims in KZN. How far are we in that project, and what's the extent of South Africa's involvement in it?
Well, this is a very new, it's an old resolution that the AU has had for several years, but it hadn't managed to get the agency off the ground due to financial constraints. The summit in Malabo, Equatorial Guinea, was to begin a process of commitment by African countries through pledging funds toward the establishment of the agency, and so ensuring that it can get off the ground with staffing and so on, but also have some resources in order to provide assistance where there are very worrying needs. As you know, in different parts of the continent, we are facing, due to 3 to 4 years of drought, massive levels of starvation. Somalia, for example, millions are without food, South Sudan, etc. So this conference was pledging as well as acting on the resolution to establish an agency. And many international partners, as they're called, these are foreign countries, including organizations in various regions, such as the European Union, committed sums, as did the member states of the African Union.
Yeah. Are you able to give us a sense of South Africa's commitments to this agency?
South Africa indicated that over a 3 to 4 year period, it would seek to commit 150 million rand.
All right. All right. Minister, thanks very much indeed for your time and for providing clarity where you can. Really do appreciate it. Minister Naledi Pandor speaking to us about the Qatari government's assistance, as it were, in KwaZulu-Natal, and I guess the intentions behind these kind of collaborations across certain borders. Minister, thanks very much once again.